So on this shaft component, I'm going to use the new stud wizard. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to select this existing circular edge. So I essentially want to work with this circular edge. And what we're going to see is that it's going to start the feature based on the defaults. So right now I can see it's going to create a stud on a cylindrical body, but notice I can just create a stud on a surface as well. In this case, I do want to work with the existing cylindrical body. And what I want to do is I want to change the size. So based on my current settings and the available, I can see the biggest machine thread I can go to is 2 and 4.5, and you can see what that's going to do. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to change this. And I'm going to change this to anti-metric, and I'm going to pick the 52 millimeter size. So you can see the metric size has been picked. And I'm going to go with a length of 75 millimeters. So what we're going to see is that based on blind here, notice I could go up to next if I wanted to. So it'll just go across that entire cylindrical body. I can also go through if I want to go to a particular face. Additionally, what I can do is I can apply the thread class to it. That's not going to make any change on the shaft feature itself. It's just if I want that information to appear if I'm annotating it, whether I'm annotating it within the model or within a drawing. I can also apply undercut at this point. So let's just go with the defaults. I just want to show what this is going to do. We're going to remove it after anyways. And I'm going to click OK. And what we're going to see is it goes through and it generates that feature for me. Now we can see that based on the size and the amount of information that was removed, it's essentially cut that keyway out of it. So it's went through and sliced that keyway right off. Okay, well, I've applied this stud in some threads, but I don't see it. So I'm going to go into the options, and within the options, I'm going to search for threads. And what I can see is that there is a setting here about shaded cosmetic threads. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to enable that. So I'm going to enable that I want to see them when the model is shaded. And now what we're going to see is that cosmetic, that image is applied. So these cosmetic threads are more useful when you're not worried about the actual thread. So it's going to be faster, it's going to perform better, but yet you still get the appearance of threads. And when you go to detail it, you can still get out that information. Okay, well, I'm not completely happy with this. So let's go back. Let's make a quick modification. We're going to change the size of this. What I'm going to do is I'm going to change this from metric threads. I'm going to change this to straight pipe threads. Let's pick 2 and 11.5. And I'm not going to have this go up to next. I'm actually going to set a blind distance, and I'm going to set this to 25 millimeters. Okay, let's turn off the undercut, and let's see what that does. So I'm going to click accept, and what we're going to see is that it's cut those, or is showing those pipe threads. Now, since I'm not going all the way through, it's left that keyway, which obviously I don't need anymore if I'm threading this. I'm either going to want to change that keyway. But in this case, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to suppress it because I'm not quite sure what I want to do with it yet. I just know that I don't want it anymore. Okay, so we've got the threads applied. Let's go over into the drawing. Notice that SOLIDWORKS has automatically pulled out the thread note on that. And just to show that, it is pulling that information out, from the drawing. So it knows that thread information, even though it's cosmetic, is still there. And as I zoom in on it, notice that there's the hidden lines representing that there's a thread there. So perhaps instead of it, being attached to that edge, what I want to do is I want to go at the top so that we know that there's a thread feature there. So that's the new stud wizard within SOLIDWORKS 2022. So continue our look at threads. Let's apply a thread feature to this face. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start the thread feature, and you notice now that I'm getting this message. It's just saying, hey, these are nominal sizes. Do not use them for production. So what this is for visual representation, so that when looking at it that there's a thread there. And then when you go to detail it, so whether you're using MBD or in a drawing view, you want to be able to extract that information out. So what's saying here is if you need actual threads, then go use the actual thread tool. So I'm going to click OK. And what I'm going to do is just select an edge. You can see it's gone through and it's applying the edge. Let's do an offset here. Let's offset that 3 millimeters into the face. and I'm going to maintain the thread length. So I always want this to be 15 millimeters. And the method is going to be a cut thread, because we're going to, cut it into the part, not on top of the part. And I'm going to do a preview. You can just see it's a shaded preview. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to accept this and create this. And notice the difference in appearance on the thread. So it looks like, those threads have been cut in there. But the thing is that these are significantly faster performance-wise than in previous releases. So not only do you get now the performance gains of using cosmetic threads, but you get this kind of realistic touch to it as well. Now, if you do encounter a thread from a previous release, what you're going to have to do is you're going to have to go right click on it. And what you're going to see is you're going to see an option to upgrade it. So you can either leave it in the pre-2022 format, or you can upgrade it. Okay, well, let's go and let's trim off a bit of this face. So I'm going to do a extruded cut. Let's not quite cut that much off. And notice how the thread stayed in place. So unlike previous releases where, changing the position of the original edge would in turn, adjust the position of the threads, it now remains, tied to the original location, the original edge. So continuing on with our look at SOLIDWORKS 2022 and part modeling, let's apply a draft. And what I want to do is I want to draft, this is my pole direction, and I'm going to use the manual option with the parting line type of draft, and I'm going to select this existing, in this case, this is a split line, but I'm going to select that existing line, and I'm going to draft this in both directions. So new to SOLIDWORKS 2022 when you're using parting line is that you can draft both sides at the same time. So we're just going to do 5 degrees so that we can see it clearly. I'm going to accept that, and we can see that that draft was applied to both sides at the same time. Okay, well, what I want to do now is I want to put, maybe I want to put a spot in here for a new speaker. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the hole wizard. I'm going to place in a slot, and let's pick from the metric size, and we'll come back to the actual size in a minute. But I'm going to switch over to the positions tab, and I'm going to pick this top face. This is where I want to add the feature. And notice how the slot is coming in a particular orientation. Previously, there was no way to adjust this. You essentially had to pick your face and go after. But notice now the option here that shows me that the tab key will rotate that. So I'm going to tab that to rotate it. Let's pick an approximate location. Now let's go back to the type tab and let's set a couple sizes here. So accept that. So it looks like I drilled that slot a bit too deep, but obviously I have to go back and change that. But it shows you how you can now use the tab key to quickly rotate that.